The Sufi poet Rumi challenges us. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. And we come from rich heritages of liturgy and pomp. We come from burning legacies of angry gods and threats of hellfire. We come just as we are. We come with exuberant and joyful hearts, eager to witness to others. We come, perhaps bereft of the goodness of life, wondering, hesitant. We come just as we are. We come in the bloom of youth, ready to explore new truths. We come ready to sit both with and apart from our children and be nourished for an hour. We come with gray in our hair and experiences to share. Hey, that rhymed. We come just as we are. We come to the place we never knew before was home. We come to the place that has been home for most of our lives. We come just as we are to join our siblings as members of one family in this beloved home. Come, yet again, come.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Robin Cooper, and I'll be your worship associate today. This is a welcoming congregation, and we are always working on how to better welcome and care for one another. If this is your first time here, we're so glad you've come, and whoever you are, we welcome you in the fullness of who you are. As we begin, we want to acknowledge that this church occupies land in Huichin, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. We understand that we continue to benefit from the seizure and occupation of this land. We acknowledge and embrace our responsibility to take restorative action. We affirm that this is deeply felt and commit our congregation to be in right relationship with Indigenous communities, aligning in solidarity, supporting Indigenous projects, and caring properly for the land. Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words. And so we gather from the ebb and flow of our lives, thirsty for connection to ourselves, thirsty for connection to others, thirsty for connection to the larger life. As we light this chalice, may all who gather here be filled with joy and hope, filled with compassion and love. Here may we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world. We also pause to remind ourselves of some of the foundations of resilience. With Reverend Michelle, we light a candle of courage, a candle of acts of service, a candle of fellowship, and a candle of hope. May we find and cultivate these foundations of our resilience in ourselves and in one another. And now, please rise in body or spirit to join in singing our opening song, Love Knocks and Waits for Us to Hear, number 1029. The words will be on the screen. Please remain standing and join with me in saying our covenant. Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another. Please be seated.
From the beginning of human time, children have been brought before their communities for dedication, as both their parents and their communities have declared their responsibilities to them. So we get to do that today. Very exciting. Will Joyce's family and godparent please come forward? Where are y'all? There y'all are. And I'm so happy about this. I love child dedications, and this is my first one in more than 4 years. All right, so who all is here with us?
So I'm Nicole, and this is Joyce, my husband Isaac, future godmother Angela, and grandmothers Louise and Jean.
Fantastic. In the old tales, the birth of a special child occasioned the arrival of supernatural beings, fairy godmothers, guardian spirits bearing magical gifts. The gifts that we flesh and blood parents have to offer our children are no less magical. They will be needed, not because our children ride off on mythical quests, although, she might, but more importantly, because we want them to grow to be whole and loving people in the real world. In so doing, we know that a child will climb to the highest heavens and test not only the furthest limits of the sea, but the limits of life itself. Whether they're paying attention now or not, you'll still get to do it. Yeah. Every child deserves to be born and born of a great and true love. And she was. Nicole and Isaac. As parents, your affection and devotion will cradle her for many years, but the larger world into which she will enter offers no such assurance. You must help her to find the strength to face the world and to be a real person in her own right. I challenge you to prepare her to be an independent adult, aware of the world as it is and as it ought to be, aware of the power of one dedicated individual to change its course, aware of the tragedy and injustice of which we are also a part, aware of the power of love to redeem it if that love has courage as well as affection. Will you now pledge her to your passion for her individuality and love that will cherish her in her own uniqueness? If so, please say we will.
We will.
Nicole and Isaac, in thinking about the future of your child, you've chosen to name a godparent who will be available to her with love and caring as she grows. Will you now introduce her godparent?
Angela Craven, friend since forever.
Friend since forever. Sorry, I moved the mic. So, Angela, as godparent, will you dedicate yourself anew to the way of life which will fill Joyce's heart with memories of gladness and a sense of divine love and mercy?
I will.
See, now she's committed. Y'all heard it. In our service of dedication and naming, we give fabulous Joyce a flower as a symbol of the beauty of life and the meaning of our dedication ceremony. I'll get it in just a sec. Robin's helping me out today. Whether a flower is beautiful or not, whether it comes to full bloom or not, whether it fulfills itself as a flower or not, depends on the nurturing it receives. No flower grows alone from the soil in which it lives. So too, no child grows alone apart from the family and community in which she lives. May this flower then be a reminder of the beauty of fulfillment and of the reward which comes from love and understanding, from teaching and example. And this rose, though they do typically grow with thorns, they've been removed from this one because although the world has many thorns, while she's growing, we do our best to protect her from those thorns. So here's this rose we talked about, and I dip it in water to symbolize the water of life, which sustains us. And you're going to get, how about a little touch right there? Is that okay? And maybe a little touch right there? Yeah. And this is for you. With this flower, we bless you, and we bless your growth and nurturing. Yeah. All right.
Joyce, you can be anybody you want to be. You can love whomever you will. You can travel any country where your heart leads, and know we will love you still. You can live by yourself. You can gather friends around. You can choose one special one, and the only measure of your words and your deeds will be the love you leave behind when you're done.
Those were lyrics from a song by Fred Small. Thank you. And now Heaven Walker, our Director of Family Ministry, has a few things to say as well.
Me and I brought a friend. So Stella is going to help us with this. So, Stella, this is baby Joyce. And we want to welcome baby Joyce to our community and to our UUCB family. Do you want to say a welcome to baby Joyce? Yes, with her eyes, she is saying welcome. So we want to welcome you, baby Joyce, and we want to give you a gift from Family Ministry because you are now part of our family. And we want to welcome you to our family, so we want to give you this photo book. And we hope that we get to be in a lot of these photos that document the beautiful life that I know that you will have, that we are now so privileged to be a part of. Do you want to give this to our Stella? Thank you. All right. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, sure.
So I'm not just looking at them, I get to look at you all too. Each one here has a part in this act of dedication and commitment. Each one here has a responsibility for all children. So I now invite everyone here to join in a unison affirmation of this dedication and responsibility. I'll say a line and then y'all say it back. Y'all ready for this? Okay, and you gotta mean it. Y'all ready for this? All right. We, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley, welcome this child into our church family and into our care. We pledge our affection, interest, and concern for their growth in our community.
Let us support all of our children here, nurturing the roots and wings that will carry them through their lives. May we bless their journeys with joy and with love. Welcome, baby Joyce.
And now, as we continue to nurture our children here, we get to sing them to our classes. Katya, what are we using today?
We're singing familiar melody with different lyrics that will be up on the screen. They already are. Morning has come, night is away. Rise with the sun and welcome the day. Morning has come, night is away.
like to invite you to enter into a time of meditation, but first I have an explanation for the reading. Many of you may be familiar with the poem The Guest House by Rumi, but the version most people are familiar with is the version by Coleman Barks. He is the most prolific translator of Rumi's work, but the word translator is not quite accurate. He himself didn't even read Persian, which is the original language that Rumi wrote in, and instead looked at other English translations and then interpreted them further, sometimes having more or less connection with Rumi's original words. So I present to you today a translation from the Persian by Kabir Helminski, which is a closer translation and closer to the meaning of Rumi's original poem. The Guest House by Rumi. Darling, this body is a guest house. Every morning, someone new arrives. Don't say, oh, another weight around my neck, or your guest will fly back to nothingness. Whatever enters your heart is a guest from the invisible world. Entertain it all. Every day and every moment, a thought comes like an honored guest into your heart. My soul, regard each thought as a person, for every person's value is in the thought they hold. If a sorrowful thought stands in the way, it is also preparing the way for joy. It furiously sweeps your house clean in order that some new joy may appear from the source. It scatters the withered leaves from the bow of the heart in order that fresh green leaves might grow. It uproots the old joy so that a new joy may enter from beyond. Sorrow pulls up the rotten root that was veiled from sight. Whatever sorrow takes away or causes the heart to shed, it puts something better in its place, especially for one who is certain that sorrow is the servant of the universe. Without the frown of clouds and lightning, the vines would be burned by the smiling sun. Both good and bad luck become guests in your heart, like planets traveling from sign to sign. When something transits your sign, adapt yourself and be as harmonious as its ruling sign, so that when it rejoins the moon, it will speak kindly to the divine of the heart. Whenever sorrow comes again, meet it with smiles and laughter, saying, "O my Creator, save me from its harm, and do not deprive me of its good. Remind me to be thankful and let me feel no regret if its benefit passes away. And if the pearl is not in sorrow's hand, let it go and still be pleased. Increase your sweet practice. Your practice will benefit you at another time, and someday your need will be suddenly fulfilled." Let's join now in a time of silence. Amen. Please remain seated to join in our meditative song, Ubi Caritas. If you want to look at the music, it's number 1048 in the teal hymnal. The words will be on screen.
Ubi caritas et amor
This is a reading on fasting. The purpose of fasting is to develop the quality of righteousness, taqwa, inwardly and outwardly, by abstaining from sinful deeds and learning to control our thoughts and desires. Fasting is a deeply spiritual practice that is meant to benefit the body, mind, and heart. The word taqwa comes from the root meaning to guard, and it is variously translated as mindfulness, righteousness, and God-fearing piety. Fasting is meant to instill this virtuous quality and its associated virtues of good character, generosity, patience, purity of heart, and so on. There are 3 levels of fasting that correspond to its outward and inward components: abstaining from food and drink, abstaining from sins, and abstaining from bad thoughts. Hence, during Ramadan, Muslims are urged to be especially careful to guard themselves from all kinds of sin while fasting, unbeneficial speech, and arguing with others. Saying this is as much a reminder to oneself as it is to others. When tempted to commit sins or engage in bad thoughts while fasting, change thinking towards something good and beneficial. If Muslims do not abstain from bad words while fasting, as well as sins and bad inward statements, then fasting has not achieved one of its most important purposes. The exercise of fasting can also be a means to develop self-control over our low desires. Fasting generates willpower within the heart that can be transferred to other situations in which we need to overcome temptation. If we can turn down a delicious meal and refreshing drink when we are hungry and thirsty, then we can strengthen our willpower, to overcome other desires as well. Fasting should also be a means of developing control over anger. True strength is in the ability of a person to control his or her mind and behavior while being provoked to anger. For this reason, do not argue or respond to bad words of others while fasting. Moreover, fasting is a means for compassion for the poor and gratitude for what we have. When we feel the pain of hunger, we have to remember that many people in the world go hungry without choosing to do so. We should empathize with their pain and act within our capabilities to help them. Reflecting on the situation of those in need will also generate gratitude and contentment for the blessings in our lives.
So you might be wondering why we're talking about fasting today, and why have I so far included 2 readings by Jalad and Rumi. This is the lunar month of Ramadan, which started on March 22nd. This is the annual Muslim holiday when Muslims around the world fast during daylight hours for a lunar month. It is a major holiday and a major observance for Muslims, one of their 5 pillars, in fact. The 5 pillars, see if you can pull them in your head. So we're going to test your knowledge, see if you can think of the 5 pillars before I go through them. You got it? No? Okay. 1, making the Muslim declaration of faith. 2, praying 5 times a day. 3, financial charity. 4, fasting during the month of Ramadan. And then 5 is the Hajj, which is making a pilgrimage to Mecca once during their life. These are all powerful for their own reasons, and Ramadan has its own unique purposes and meanings. In addition to the pieces that Robin shared a moment ago, the fast is a powerful one and is intended to open a place in one's heart through which for the divine to enter. Now, you can find practices of fasting in many religious traditions, and that particular theme is a common one, that fasting it hopes to open oneself to the divine, to guidance to the divine, to open a place in one's heart. My words are not coming out in the right order this morning. Fasting is not unknown to Unitarian Universalists either. While I was in the Washington, D.C. area, I served for a couple of years with Reverend Abhi Janamanchi, who is a Hindu and UU, but observes fasting for Ramadan most every year. A reflection from him was published in the UU World, our national publication, a few years back, and I want to share some of his reasons that he shares for why he fasts, because he's not Muslim, he's Hindu and UU. So here's what he says. Why would I, a non-Muslim, put myself through all this hassle? Why not simply write a generous check to a deserving relief organization and deduct it on my income tax return? What benefit might be achieved through the abstinence of food? I admit, he says, that there are not many tangible benefits in undertaking this fast, other than maybe shedding some pounds around the waist. But the intangibles are certainly as important as the tangibles. I am fasting for myself, for my own spiritual growth, to make more room for God. I want to deepen or reawaken my sense of the Spirit by letting go of my cravings for general food. My hunger will be a visceral reminder of my own deepest yearnings. As a Unitarian Universalist, I believe in the primacy of reason, conscience, and freedom, and I know that the biggest obstacle standing in the way of my living freely, responsibly, and compassionately is my own ego, selfishness, and unquenchable desire. I've tended to fill my spiritual hunger with food and drink, with material comforts, with stuff, with tasks, and with distractions like television. A Zulu proverb says, "You cannot see the truth with a stuffed belly." You cannot see the truth with a stuffed belly. And as a religious liberal who is on the search for truth and meaning, I hope fasting will help me glimpse the truth. He goes on, I'm fasting to witness to my convictions, to call attention to injustice and inequity, to dramatize the plight of the destitute. Every day I have more than enough to eat. Our 2 refrigerators are brimming with all kinds of goodies and leftovers from restaurants and meals past. Every day, I am typical of the men and women, the people of America. I waste about 15% of the food I buy, enough to keep a child in East Africa from starving. On most days, I eat my meals thoughtlessly, on the go, unconsciously, irreverently. I fail to escape the snares of callousness that lie in wait for all whose lives are too much blessed. Long after my month-long fast, I hope to carry with me vivid memories of the sensation of hunger, memories which, I trust, will reinforce my resolve to do something in my small corner of the globe to help mitigate this incomprehensible evil of human hunger. And last, he says, I am fasting out of gratitude, trying to become more cognizant of the many unbidden blessings in my life. I want to cleanse the windows of my perception so my vision may be less clouded by desire and self-concern. Perhaps by fasting, I will learn greater appreciation for the gifts of the ordinary, these basic elements of life which we conspicuous consumers take for granted. How much truth did you hear in that? Let me say my disclaimer part about this, though. Fasting is a significant thing in terms of health. Every religious tradition that has fasting practices makes it quite clear that they are only advocating for folks who are not physically compromised in some way. It's only for folks who are at least a certain age, and not for if you're pregnant or sick or the like. There's even a story of a rabbi who forbid his followers to fast during a cholera epidemic because he was afraid that even a slight compromising of their bodies and immune system could be disastrous for them. And even non-spiritual fasting practices direct folks to consult with their medical professionals before undertaking any sort of a fast. And also, fasting is very different from eating disorders, especially anorexia. Totally different thing. And in fact, overall, Muslims tend to eat more during Ramadan than not. The feasts they break their fast with each day. Okay, so we got the disclaimer. I can talk about this without feeling guilty about health, right? Okay, good, because I had to say it. All right, fasts can have a variety of forms. They can be food-based, food and drink-based, full abstention from physically consuming all food and liquids, or just fasting from certain types of food. They can be fasts during daylight hours. They can be 24 hours long based on times on a clock or on the sunset. They can be longer term, which are, by the way, even more sensitive in terms of health. Fasts can also be for things that aren't edible, although food fasts are the ones we most often talk about. As Robin was mentioning, during Ramadan, Muslims include fasting from negative thoughts, from smoking, and from engaging in sexual activity. I've heard of modern-day fasts from electronic devices. And during Lent, many Christians abstained from a wide variety of things. Okay, my favorite non-edible fast. This is a historic one. It's in historic literature in a comedy written by Greek author Aristophanes. And yes, this is heteronormative, but this is how the play was written. In the play Lysistrata, the women in Athens withheld sexual relations from their husbands until they would stop fighting the Peloponnesian War. Okay, it's women's empowerment, but okay, maybe not quite, but that's a topic for another day. So I've done 3 intentional fasts that I can think of, and all were very different experiences. One that I did a while back was a weekly fast that I engaged in for about a year. So that year, I fasted from sundown Tuesday to sundown Wednesday, and allowed myself to consume only water, juice, and clear fruits during that next day. So grapes, apples, and watermelon were allowed in any quantity that I desired, just not heavier fruits like bananas. I didn't have any particular religious reasons for doing this. It was more related to a detox and cleansing out sort of thing, and simply engaging in some sort of practice of discipline. Okay, I admit it was also an excuse to pig out on my favorite fruits one day a week, but it had other benefits too. And as the year went on, some weeks were harder than others. I didn't keep the fast for all of them, but I did for most. And every Thursday, after those 24 hours, my body did feel more cleaned out. One of the things that I found, though, is that it felt rather lonely. Like I was just doing this thing off on my own by myself, largely because I was. I had heard about some other folks doing it and decided to try it myself. The experience of the year would have been drastically different if I had been doing it with someone else, even just one person. That's a huge thing that I see in religious or spiritual-based fasts, is the fact it is a communal act, and there's both a community of support as well as community accountability for it. Being in a community, or at least having a co-journeyer or two, is an essential thing for challenging experiences of any sort. Both for that support and, the accountability. It is easy to give in, right? I admit that I might not have broken my fast rules the times I did if I'd been part of a group doing that. I felt guilty when I did, but it was just me. Nobody else needed to know about that. Another thing that folks may fast individually for or as part of a group is fasting for a particular cause. Mahatma Gandhi fasted 17 times during India's freedom movement, the longest of which was 21 days, when he consumed nothing but water. He also fasted regularly as a spiritual practice and as part of his asceticism, believing it made him a better vessel for ahimsa, which is his love force, and his practices of nonviolence. In the 1980s, comedian and activist Dick Gregory fasted for a variety of causes, calling it social justice fasting. Neat, isn't it? While well known, I'm not sure how effective his fasts were, aside from raising awareness about the cause, which, is worthy in and of itself. His fasts, some of which were rather long, 70 days was one of them, really tore up his body. I've done 2 other fasts that particularly come to mind. Both, though, instead of being by myself, they were with other groups of people. One was with a group of other seminarians, where we did a 3-day fast from solid foods and heavier liquids. We also formed a support and accountability community and had email-based discussions throughout the 3 days. This fast was intended primarily as a spiritual one, as well as a time for clearing out and reflection, making ourselves more open and attentive to what may be speaking or moving within us. During the fast, folks talked about how the first day was harder, but then they began to feel better, and by the 3rd day felt far more open and aware and had some great meditation and prayer time. Okay, my experience was the opposite of that. First day was not too bad. I had some fun with a borrowed juicer, making some super fresh juice, and I felt peaceful and had a great reflecting time. The 2nd day found me grumpier and less comfortable, and I spent the entire 3rd day fantasizing about a bowl of plain rice. When the time came to break the fast, I got my desired bowl of rice, but my body wasn't so certain about it, and I couldn't even finish it. Overall, it was not the experience that I had hoped it would be. The other fast that comes to mind is a much more successful one, and I think there are a number of reasons for its success. It was for Yom Kippur, the holiest of holidays on the Jewish calendar, the Day of Atonement when prayer and opening and repentance and turning are the core things one holds on to. And it's a time when healthy Jewish adults are expected to fast from everything, water included, from sundown to the next sundown. This was a year when I went to all of the High Holy Days services, about 24 hours total of services over a 10-day time period, which, by the way, I totally recommend anybody do sometime. I've done it a couple of times connecting with my Jewish heritage, and this was one of them. And I dressed in all white and fasted for Yom Kippur along with the other attendees. For me, this one was totally different. In fact, I hardly remember feeling like I fasted for the day. It's not that I was distracted by doing other things. That was probably some of it. But it was that I was doing it as part of a long-standing religious tradition, along with many other people, for a purpose. I think that's what made it successful. During both that time as well as other High Holy Day services, I felt connected with Jews around the world as well as with my own Jewish ancestors. It was less about the fasting and more about the time that we were in and the goals for that time, and also the collective identity and collective practice that we shared. These things are functionally important in many types of religious fasting, including Ramadan. Muslims all around the world are fasting from sunrise to sunset for an entire month. And not only that, they're engaging in additional prayer and communal time during Ramadan and typically breaking their fast together each evening. As I've seen folks observing Ramadan, it usually seems more like a time of intention and celebration than that of deprivation. It is a communal and spiritual act, as well as a religious act, and it is one of the core facets of their faith. In many other religious traditions that have practices of fasting, it can be one of those core things too. Communal practices and intentional practices are important for us, finding ways to open our hearts and open our beings, to connect with each other, and to connect with whatever greater purposes that we share. Times of fasting may do this. Many other things may as well. May we seek these out as part of our communities. Blessed be.
We invite you now to make an offering. In this way, each of us has the opportunity to contribute to keeping our community dynamic and resilient. We're continuing to conduct the offering without passing the plate. Instead, you can either give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put cash or check donation into the donation envelope that you'll find in the back of the pew in front of you. Write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it into the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of our offering plate is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization, recommended by our Social Justice Council. We're grateful that you've continued to practice generosity with UUCB and our good neighbors through these difficult years. Your offering of any value is always received with gratitude. The Good Neighbor for this month is the Women's Cancer Resource Center. WCRC helps women with cancer improve their quality of life through education, support services, and practical assistance. I want to welcome Jaya Naini, who is the co-chair of the Women's Cancer Resource Center Outreach Committee.
Thank you, Robin. Hello, everyone. As Robin introduced me, I am Jaya Naini. I'm a volunteer at the Women's Cancer Resource Center, and I'm a member of their outreach committee, as she mentioned. So the mission of WCRC is to improve equitable access to cancer information, support, and care for all East Bay patients and their families. So what WCRC does is it provides a large number of practical and emotional support programs. It also advocates for more just healthcare system, and they do this by collaborating with hospitals both locally and nationally. And also they sit on community advisory boards so that they can provide trainings on culturally sensitive care to area providers. And this, they also contribute to other medical research and projects. So all of this is done with the goal of eliminating healthcare disparities and barriers to care. So primarily, WCRC serves low-income women and patients of color in Alameda and Contra Costa counties. But many of these programs are also open to cancer patients, survivors, and caretakers of all genders and incomes. So it's open to everyone. Apart from that, actually coming up next month, WCRC has one of their largest events. It's called Swim a Mile or Move a Mile for women with cancer. So it's essentially a 2-day, they consider the pool party supposed to be fun. It is held on May 6th and 7th at Mills College. So it's a good way of getting to know WCRC and also participating in this fun event and getting to know more about our organization. So you're all welcome to either participate or come and volunteer. We are always looking for more volunteers. So to find out more about it, please go to www.wcrc.org, where you can find more information about this organization. We also have some brochures and other information outside if you need additional information. Again, once again, I thank you all for so much for supporting our local cancer patients. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaya. Please give generously to support this great organization. Please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
All right, I'm getting help from a number of folks for announcements today, so if you'll be helping with an announcement, come on up back here. I think there are a few different groups. So first announcement, and there are, by the way, 5 of them. First announcement, if you are you new here and you are feeling like you enjoy this congregation, you're having fun, you're wondering more about Unitarian Universalism and UUCB, that's fabulous. We hope that you can stay for a information session. Sounds so formal. How about a chat and lunch? It'll be in the fireside room, which is just off of our social hall. That'll be right after the service. All right. So if come on back there if you're here for an announcement, because y'all are the second to the last, most of you who are coming up here. Let me get Helen and here. All right. So I'm going to place a foundation before I give you all the mic. Last week was a big Sunday, and we talked about the work of community here in the service, and then you did some of the work of community. So I said last Sunday was your test. Both last Sunday and right now are your test. So we had such a successful congregational meeting last week. I was so proud of you all and so proud of serving a congregation that can talk about potentially divisive things openly with love and being kind to each other. So please make me proud today when you hear the results of the resolution on the future of the Freestone property, which will delight some folks and disappoint others. Whatever it was, that was going to happen, but you all are still members of the same congregation. You are bound by love in this congregation. So I invite you to please hold one another with respect and care and love, whether you agree or not, because you are still all UUCB. Okay, can you do that for me? Can you make me proud? All right.
Thank you, Reverend Michelle. And Pierre and I are here to give you the results of that vote. And as you recall, a vote yes meant to keep Freestone under the described phased and conditional plan to renovate and report, as was noted in the resolution. For a yes meant that would occur. A no meant that the board would go ahead and proceed with working on the sale. For either of these to pass, we needed 50% vote plus 1. And here are the results.
The resolution has passed with a vote of 87 to 78. And our next step as the board, as described in the resolution, will be to form the Freestone Oversight Committee to help take on the next steps that were described in the resolution. This board oversight committee will be comprised of, at minimum, 3 members nominated by the Freestone Committee, 1 member that comes from the current or former stewardship committee, and 1 member of the board, at minimum. All right, so thank you to everyone in the congregation for your participation and your community spirit.
Absolutely.
We have lots of things going on. So Celine, chair of your stewardship committee, has an announcement, and I think there might be cake involved.
Good morning, everyone. So this is Celebration Sunday, and I wanted to report where we are in our campaign, stewardship campaign. So we currently have pledges from 109 families representing 132 members. And at this point, our pledges total 80% of our pledge goal. We are really grateful to everyone who has pledged. Thank you so much. We also would like to reach our goal in order to prevent significant cuts to the budget. Here at UUCB, we have fantastic staff, and we rely on them to function and to generate revenue for the church. So we really need to reach our pledge goal in order to retain our staff at all their current levels. And of course, if we can go above, that would be even nicer. So if you haven't pledged yet, please do. I really urge you to do so. You can pledge online, forms at the table outside. And if you have pledged and you're able to increase your pledge, let us know as well. So thanks again. And there will be cake in the atrium after the service, so please come join us.
And now, hiding behind this screen are some super hard-working, fabulous UCB leaders that have something to tell you about. I think I had my words in the right order. Y'all want to come out?
The search is finally over for our next minister. We have some good news to share. Yeah, woo. We have exciting news. We have made an offer to our preferred candidate, and they have accepted. Yeah. We are super thrilled. Unfortunately, we can't tell you any more right now. Our lips are sealed. However, as a teaser, we can share a couple of quotes from their previous congregants.
So the Reverend, who cannot yet be named, is the warmest, most inspiring minister I've had. They exude care and love for everybody in the congregation.
The Reverend, who cannot yet be named, has been instrumental in helping us create deep, loving, intentional community.
Stay tuned for an announcement in about 2 weeks. Thank you.
Can we get a round of applause for our amazingly hardworking search committee? The Reverend, who cannot be named. I wasn't allowed to tell them this because I'm not allowed to influence the process. They were my first choice, too. And just because 86 and a half people will ask me after the service what my plans are, the interim search happens during the first half of May. So I will not know where I'm going until mid-May. And I will tell you all, don't worry, you'll be one of the first to know. Let's all take a breath together. That was a lot. Let us surround ourselves with joy and love and all that kind of stuff. And I think Katya is going to help introduce our closing song.
Before that, whether you're happy today or disappointed, either come back or stay for the organ recital that is free of charge, because all organ music is sounding free in this church, according to the initial donors to that beautiful instrument. And yes, that is somewhere in the laws, that we have to have our organ be free of, sound free of charge to anyone who wants to hear it. And so donations are, of course, welcome. They'll go to the general fund. And the theme of the recital will be exploring all various states of prayer, anywhere from dramatic, tragic, and diving into sorrow, going up to elated states of complete joy and adoration.
3? 2 p.m. So 2 p.m. right here in the sanctuary, because that's where the organ is. And going to be fabulous. All right, let's sing some. Let us sing about love. How does that sound? Please rise in body or in spirit. Make channels for streams of love. It's number 299 in the gray hymnal. The words will be on screen. As we gather, we light a common chalice. We sing and celebrate and pray and think. We gather strength from the flame and from one another, going from here, taking that light with us. May you go now and hold one another with care and kindness. Blessed be.